Shall we get started?
It's your party.
Okay. I don't see Doug Smith on here. Doug called me this afternoon, and he said he was feeling kind of lousy, so that he didn't show up. I should tell you how much money Doug has in the treasury. We have $6,513.85. So we're semi-rich. So it's pretty good for all that was donations. So we don't have any plans to spend a whole lot. I have submitted a grant request to the city. We want to, it's a matching grant. We want to buy additional trees for the orchard at the garden. And if we get that grant, then I will take $1,500 out here for the matching grant. So that's the only expenditures that we have scheduled in the next few months. Okay, Tim, all yours.
All right. Thank you for having me. I've got Commander Angelo with me. He's going to kick me if any of the stats are incorrect. So just thank you. The guy, Barbara, we're lucky we got the stats when we did, because the guy that does our stats came down with COVID this morning. He tested positive for COVID. So we're waiting on some other stats that I need to get with people before the holidays. So we're going to try to figure out how we can do that while Rick is out taking care of himself and his family. The commander and I just left downstairs on the first floor. Ms. Walton was talking about food here at the station. The explorers, which are the young people who want to be police officers one day, they're downstairs. They're having a little meeting, and they cooked us hamburgers and hot dogs and spaghetti and chicken and fried rice, and they even brought donuts because they thought that would be cute. And I think the commander did partake. He's got some glaze on the front of his uniform. And so we just came from down there, and that was a great experience. Those are our high school age people that are looking for a future in law enforcement. And that's a great place to start, because they're kind of told, you know, you got to do this, you got to do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. And so it kind of gets them on the way. They do crime scenes, they do traffic stops, they do a lot of stuff. So I think he told me tonight that he has there were 3 police officers down there that are former explorers, and 2 of them I think will be in the academy in the middle of next year. So that's really good stuff. I'm gonna give you a few stats. Anytime you want to interrupt me, you can. We all know there's a whole lot going on in West Houston these days. Our nonviolent crimes, Part 1 violent crimes for the last 30 days are up 1.25%. You know, you watch the news and you think it's a heck of a lot more than that. The nonviolent crimes are up 9%. We'll talk about some of that stuff here in a minute. In the 4200 block of South Kirkwood, there was a shootout down there between 2 parties back on October the 15th. There was 1 person that died. There was a suspect that was arrested on that case, and it truly was just a shootout between 2 people. And one of them lost, and one of them's been convicted. So I guess they both lost. Over on Sharpview, that was the little teenage girl over there that was killed. That made the news for several days. There's been an arrest made on that one. I think 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, they finally arrested the young man that did that. The story behind the story is it was family members that were feuding with each other. They decided they were going to, I think, like have a fist fight or whatever it is that young people do. And unfortunately for that little girl, somebody showed up with the gun, but an arrest was made on that one. A sexual assault that occurred over on West Sam Houston at one of the hotels over there. There is a guy driving down the road, asked a young lady if she needed a ride. She says, yes, I do need a ride. She jumped in the car with him. He took her to a hotel. There is a good suspect description on that, on a vehicle. I'm fully confident that our investigators here, as well as our crime analysis people downstairs, will catch somebody on that one. Another sexual assault, and I'm only telling y'all some of this because when you see if you just see the stats, you don't see the whole story, and there's always a story behind the story. Over on Huntington Field, there was another sexual assault that you'll see on those stats. Barbara, I'll send you that as soon as this meeting's over. Ended up being a stepfather, happened over a long period of time. Another sexual assault that happened over on Grove Glen. It was a long-term relationship. They had a 6-month-old child together. Ex-boyfriend went and found ex-girlfriend, baby mama, and assaulted her again. Some arrests that have been made out here at Westside, and man, I was reading over this afternoon, and very impressive stuff. There was a home invasion over at 11300 Hazen back on October the 1st, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Suspects were still there when the officers arrived. They ended up arresting 2 suspects over there. A robbery that happened at 10500 Wilcrest at the Shell gas station. An arrest was made on that one. An aggravated robbery that happened over on Shannon Hills, a carjacking on that one. No arrest was made on that one, but they have a really good suspect description. Again, fully confident that our guys will get them. One of the SIG events that happened out here, an aggravated robbery that happened over on 7700 Corporate. There was a robbery that occurred. Officers got there just in time to see the suspect speed away. There was a quick little chase. Both suspects ended up getting captured. Actually, there were 3 suspects, 2 males and 1 female. The female that was with them was 13 years old, but they all got arrested. Let's see, aggravated assault on a police officer that happened over at 10700 Corona. Officers were dispatched to a burglary in progress. And these are all cool stories to hear because sometimes we hear all these in progress calls, but we think the officers get there too late. These are calls that officers got there in time. Officers got there in time. The suspect, he ended up biting both officers pretty severely. It punctured their skin. And then he tried to disarm one of the officers, tried to take his pistol away from him. The other officer tasered him. They were able to get him under control. He was arrested. An aggravated assault that happened over at 7500 Cook. A suspect told another person that he was going to go kill her brother. Well, fortunately, the officers got to the scene in time just as the suspect was driving off, arrested him for the aggravated assault of the brother. 2 guys, this was kind of funny. 2 guys at a repair shop over at 8100 Boone. He didn't like the way his car was fixed, so he picked up a propane torch, and hit the manager in the head. Officers got there in time, and Barbara, you look perplexed. Officers got there just in time to arrest that suspect. Had a couple of buddies decide they were going to get into a fight and use beer bottles and screwdrivers. They got arrested. We'll talk about burglaries. Burglaries of habitations or burglary of buildings are down 17%. Those are everything other than a habitation. Again, I think last month we talked about this. Those could be like storage facilities, all that kind of stuff. Where we get hammered really hard out here at Westside is there's storage facilities everywhere. A suspect goes in one, he can work his way through the whole storage facility and just absolutely kill us on the on those statistics. So they're down 17%. We can't let our guard down on that. Burglary of habitations, this is a big one. They are up 40% in the last month, 40%. I suspect that those may start increasing too. So share this with your friends, your neighbors, everybody else. It's Christmas time. We like to put up our Christmas tree. We spend a lot of time with the Christmas tree. We like to keep the windows open because everybody wants to see the Christmas tree. But remember, when people walk by your house, they see that Christmas tree. They also see the presents underneath the Christmas tree. And they will kick a door and go in and steal wrapped presents, just hoping to get something. So tell everybody about that. Tell your friends about that to keep everything locked up. Burglary of motor vehicles are up 13%. I think last month we were down. This month we're starting to see an increase. I think the same may happen in December too. We're all guilty. Old cop, I do the same thing. Hide stuff in your car or take it home with you. Don't go buy that Apple computer, lay it in the backseat of your car and run down to Chili's and have lunch. Someone will break out your window. Someone will take that computer. So that's why I think there's probably an increase in B&Bs, and I think they will continue to increase. Same as theft from vehicles. And I don't really know exactly what this theft from vehicle is. I don't know if it's tires. I don't know if it's hubcaps. I don't know what it is. but there's been an increase of 66% in that. I'm going to ask crime analysis tomorrow to give me some more information on this. That seems like a major increase. Again, the number one thing there is apartment complexes. Again, somebody that wants to jack with the car, whether steal the car, break into the car, or steal something from the car, you go to an apartment complex, there are a lot of cars to steal from. Number one place for that happening is apartment complexes. Auto thefts is a decrease in auto thefts. Auto theft sometimes is especially out here in 19 and 20 district, it seems like it's a crime of opportunity. You know, you got kids that are going through apartment complexes. And again, 13 of the 54 auto thefts occurred at an apartment complex. You go to an apartment complex, you just start trying doors, you get in one, people, yes, they do leave keys in the car, and they just drive off in your car. Thefts, you're gonna see a 7% increase in thefts. There was 104 thefts. Remember, these thefts, the computer just tells us thefts. This was kind of interesting too. 19 are from convenience stores, 16 are from single family dwellings, 12 were department stores, 11 were drugstores, 9 were apartments, and 8 were gas stations. These thefts, there's 104 of them for the month. These thefts could be a beer theft, it could be a shoplifter at Target, which will start increasing as the holidays increase as well. Let me see. Some of our undercover guys were doing some surveillance down there at 10600 Beach Nut, ended up getting an arrest for possession of 7 grams of crack. The passenger also had a gram of crack. They had 0.7 grams of marijuana. They were both gang members. I called today, I think over at Jeff Baker's super neighborhood last week. People were asking what gangs are out here at Westside. So I have that for you. Hold on. It's the Houston, Tango Blast, Black Disciples, the Cholos, MS-13, La Primera, Forum Park Crips, Jack Boys, 52 Hoover Gangster Crips, SPPL, L Gang, 4 Line Bloods, Hayes Street Mafia. They told me too, the gang sergeant told me today, the number 1 gang in 20 district is the 4 Line Bloods. In 19 district, which was basically south of West Park, is the Black Disciples, the Forum Park Crips, and the Jack Boys. He told me these gangs are very transient, and they use a lot of the hotels that are along the Beltway, as well as the hotels on Highway 6, where they will meet, they'll get a hotel room, and then they'll go from there to go commit their crimes. Also, the captain and the department has started an initiative because the crime is so high that there's an overtime program where guys go out into high crime areas. A traffic stop was made out at 9500 Bissonnette where they got a gram of cocaine, a gangbanger, $15,000 in cash. Gangbanger was from the Black Disciples. Another one in the 9700 block of Bissonnette, officers recovered a gun with an extended magazine. An extended magazine means it holds more bullets than a regular pistol does. Another traffic stop in 19G Tinsby was possession of a controlled substance where they got 5 grams of Xanax, 113 grams of marijuana. One of the suspects was charged with manufacturing and delivery of a controlled substance, and he had an open warrant for dangerous drugs. Our gang guys doing a great job upstairs, well, on the 2nd floor, and then, no, 3rd floor. They're doing a great job out there. Got a Black Disciple gangbanger, recovered some debit cards. I think that's the new thing now. I think in Jeff's neighborhood, they're having problems with mailbox theft. That's probably where they're getting these debit cards. On that one, they ended up putting 2 people in jail. Another one on 1019, again, our gang unit, doesn't say where it is, but they recovered $5,000 in cash. There were 4 gangbangers. They seized 9 grams of marijuana. They were stopped because of the high level of human trafficking down in 19G50's beat. And the suspect was charged with fraudulent possession of identifying information. Another one on 1022, down there in 19G10's, 19G50's beat again, 37 grams of marijuana, suspect was arrested. Another one down in 19G10's beat, a high crime area down there, and the commander and the department has put a lot of units down there, a lot of overtime units down there. Did a traffic stop, smelled a strong odor of marijuana, ended up with Percocet pills, marijuana. Suspect was arrested on that one. Got a fugitive, a wanted person for a felony family violence, ended up being a gangbanger on that one. Saturday on October the 3rd, got a felony for narcotics. They ran a warrant on this guy, found him asleep. That's the best way when you go run a warrant. Somebody's asleep. Ended up putting that fella in jail. Again, another high intensity area. And this is crazy. I was looking at these numbers just a little while ago too. On October 20th, they put 5 felons in jail, 7 misdemeanors, got a pistol off the street, 4 gang cards, recovered a vehicle, and recovered some narcotics. The next day, they put 8 felons in jail, 13 misdemeanors, a pistol, recovered a vehicle, 9 gang cards. The next day, this is 3 days in a row, narcotics investigation, an auto theft investigation, recovered a vehicle, got a minor for a traffic violation, a stolen vehicle, was charged, a suspect was charged with UUMB, possession of a controlled substance. The second suspect was possession of identifying information after a credit card belonging to someone else was found in their possession. Any questions? You can tell that although the crime numbers are increasing, the officers out here at Westside, in my opinion, are doing an amazing job looking through these today, and I'm glad they provided me with some of these stories. Our guys are doing a really good job. 3 days in a row that they were able to put so many people in jail, 5, 13, 14, 14 felonies and 20 misdemeanors, you know, a few guns, recovered a few vehicles, very, very impressive. So it's always good to know, even though that I'm an inside guy now, it's still good to know those guys are going out there. They're doing the very best they can do. They're putting a bunch of folks in jail. And I will shut up now. If you have any questions.
Whitaker.
Yes.
This is Joe.
Hi, Joe.
What is going on with our district attorney and letting all these people out on bond and they're going around and committing crimes again? That just sucks swamp water, as one of my friends says.
Hey, Joe.
Is there any improvement on that? I mean, is there anything, I mean, other than voting, which, I voted, but is there anything that we can do to, pressure or help you guys out? Because I know it's, you get them and the next day they're out, or that evening when they've got.
I'll let the commander answer that one. He gets paid more money than I do.
Hey, Joe. So sure, that's an issue that's been near and dear to our heart. The chief has talked about that all year long. We're seeing the same trends where individuals, if it's a misdemeanor, you're walking in and walking back out of the jail. We're starting to see, we believe the trend is still on felonies, that suspects are still getting an affordable bond where they can bond out of jail. So let me just say this: we can only control what we can control on our end of it. It's the judges that set the bond. It's not the DA's office. They can make a recommendation. So it's really
What is the
boils
judge?
down to, ma'am.
You got names?
Well, not on this form, I don't, but I understand that.
Well,
We
I mean,
are
you
tracking.
watch the news and you hear that, and if you guys are working and putting your lives on the line, I mean, the judges ought to be backing you guys up. That's my 5 cents. Maybe that's too many cents, but
I agree, and I don't know if I'm speaking out of place here when I say I think there's a shift in philosophy on how we deal with criminals and the criminal justice system. I think we're trying to move maybe more towards, instead of a punitive system, maybe more towards a rehabilitative system where we think this criminal can be rehabilitated. I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory. I'm not sure if I'm not speaking on behalf of the judges. That's just what I think. I see Councilwoman Thomas is in here. Maybe she has something to offer on that part of it. So I need to be careful what I need to say here, but there is a time and place. I know our union is actively tracking which judges are giving low bonds. When we have a case here at Westside where we file some charges on a violent felony, or when a suspect is out on a violent felony on a bond and they commit another violent felony, we are recording that information and we are sending that information up. What the department is doing with that, I'm not 100% sure. I know Joe Gamaldi in our union was very passionate about this issue, and he was very vocal about the issue. But as you said, the elections have come and gone. So what recourse do we have now? I'm really not too sure what recourse there is.
Okay.
We'll just continue to monitor it, but Joe, we are tracking that information.
Thank you.
Sure, real quick, and if I could just piggyback on what Tim was talking about. So Westside we're about overall, as a division, we're about 14% increase in year-to-date violent crime. When I first got here, I told you that violent crime would be my priority. The good news is the bad news is we've had a couple of double homicides in a 1-week span. The good news is we're below the citywide average. So the citywide average right now for murders is about, year-to-date is about 46% increase. We're about the mid-20s, 25, 26%, if you include today's double murder. So we are below the citywide average. That's a good thing. Aggravated assaults continues to be our driver of crime. So I want to thank the chief, the mayor, and Councilwoman Thomas that we are actually putting a lot of resources, a lot of overtime resources into our divisional operations to combat the violent crime that's going on in our area. So we are putting more officers on the streets. We have 2 separate overtime programs right now. We have the CARES overtime. That's the coronavirus aid and relief overtime funding. So that's going to be federal money that we're paying our officers. And another one's going to be our DART overtime program, which is the Domestic Abuse Response Team overtime program. And that's going to be where 2 officers are paired up, and they're actually responding to violent domestic violence calls, and trying to make an impact right away where we can make an arrest on these suspects. What we have found is that domestic violence suspects are some of the most dangerous criminals out there, not only for the person whom they're victimizing, but also for police officers. Excuse me. The individual who shot and killed Sergeant Harold Preston, we were there for a domestic violence investigation. If you remember Sergeant Christopher Brewster last year, he was investigating a domestic violence incident when he was shot. Those are 2 sergeants who were killed by domestic violence suspects. Now, the individual, the latest one that shot Sean Rios, I'm not sure what his history is. I would not be surprised if there was some sort of domestic violence conviction or report against him in the past. I don't have any information to affirm that one way or the other. So all of these overtime programs end December 31st. In addition, I've instructed my admin staff where every day we're putting more officers from my admin staff back on the street to help run calls for service, because we're noticing that, or I've noticed that our response times are creeping up a little bit. They're getting to a level that I'm not comfortable with. So we've put more admin resources on there. DRT through Lieutenant Trometer, I've asked Lieutenant Trometer to dedicate some of his DRT officers to every day, they're rotating through to be in the call for service loop. So we're adding more patrol resources to respond to crimes quicker to hopefully get these individuals in jail. So it's not a perfect system. Sometimes we get lucky and sometimes we don't. Do want to talk about real quick. Now, I'll tell you what, I'll save that for next month because it's but it's a long story. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you have, but want to thank you all for being here.
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you attribute all this gang activity recently? I mean, it seems to me that in the last 4 or 5 months that it's really increased. Why is that, do you think? Or are we just now knowing about that?
Yeah, Barbara, I think that's part of it as well. One of the things I did when I got here is we built our gang units. So we're gathering a lot more gang intelligence from the gangs that are going on out here. So one of the things we're trying to be very aggressive towards these gang investigations. They have become extremely transformative in how they conduct their operations. They're becoming much more technological savvy in how they're committing their crimes. So they're not necessarily strong-arming people. They're still committing the robberies, but they're starting to move into the financial crime, the cyber side of it as well. So as they're changing their ways, we need to change our ways. But to answer your question, I think it's always been there, Barbara. I think now it's just more of an awareness, if you will. I'm much more educated on the gang issues out here than before I came out here. So I think it's just more about education than it is about we have these gangs out here. They've always been out here. When I was out here 25 years ago, they were out here. But I think the violence has become it's much more violent out here than it was maybe 25 years ago. And a lot of it is gang crime related. It is driving our numbers up. So our murders are going to be mostly gang and narcotics related out here. So while the numbers are high and the numbers in the city of Houston are high, if you think about it, if you're just a normal citizen going through your normal day-to-day process, the chance of you becoming a victim is relatively, it's very, very small. Not to say that it couldn't happen, but if you're going to your house, you're not in the high crime areas at 2 o'clock in the morning, doing stuff you're not supposed to be doing, you're not going to be victimized. These gangs are targeting each other. And you have like the Black Disciples, which are different sects within the Black Disciple gang membership. They're actually killing each other, these two different sects within the Black Disciple gang. So that's something that my gang unit, actually the supervisor, educated me on. So anyway, there is a gang issue out here at Westside. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. So we do aggressive follow-up. Our gang unit does an incredible job on the follow-up. There are some things that I don't want to get into as far as their investigative techniques, because I don't want to compromise that. But those guys are aggressive and hitting the ground running. And any gang crime or any gang shooting, I have them look at every shooting to see if there's a gang nexus to it. And if there is, they're involved in the investigation.
Barbara, I agree with what the commander just said. Is they've always been out here, for years. And today, when I called the gang sergeant and I was asking him for a list of these get you stone, tango blast, good night. They've been out here a long, long time. Black Disciples, Cholos, MS-13, and down in 20G Tensby. When I went down there 15 years ago, down to 20G Tensby, MS-13, and moved into an apartment complex, and I knew I wasn't getting any calls in there, and it was because they were just taking care of business themselves. So I think the reason that we may be noticing them more is maybe the more violent that they're becoming. Hayes Road, it's terrible on Hayes, and like the commander said, it's gang on gang. The Meadow Glen, the murder last night, that could possibly be gang. It could possibly be narcotics. And sometimes when we watch the news, and trust me, again, being an old cop, I get caught up in it too. We take the news for 100% fact. And it's like that terrible scene that we were on last week or the week before, where the family member, for whatever reason, he just went crazy in the house and started shooting people. And it was a terrible scene. And that makes the news, but that's something that is very, very difficult to stop, to prevent from happening. But yet it still makes the news. It still goes on the statistics. And yeah, it is crazy. But yeah, I think when I heard these gang names today, I was like, wow, they're still out here. The fact that, I agree with him too, the fact that they're using the hotels to get together in, I didn't know that was happening, but when he told me Beltway 8 and Highway 6, those hotels along those areas, and that's where they all get together, and then they go out and do whatever it is they do against other gangs.
Lovely. Okay, but I learned something good from your statistics. The next time my car needs repaired, when I go to get the bill, if I don't like it, I'm taking a propane torch.
And I'm going to send the commander to arrest you.
And Barbara, let me give you a little bit of an education here, okay? If you see an individual with a shaved head and they have a tattoo of the Houston Astros logo, they're not a big Astros fan, okay? They're a Houston gang member, okay? They're Houston. That's a true story. That is their symbol, is the Houston Astros star that you see. And people think, oh, look at this guy. What a great fan he is of the Houston Astros. No, he is a stone cold gang member.
Oh,
that's very true.
Good to know. Okay.
Any other questions for me or the commander?
Thank you, guys.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to talk about the Vietnamese signs. And for those of you that are not up on it, I prepared a little summary, if you'll indulge me, so that we can all be on the same page. The Vietnamese signs were paid for by donations from the Vietnamese community led by Representative Hubert Vo. No public funds were used. Richard Nguyen, when he was the council member for District F, requested permission from the city to put them up, and the request was fast-tracked by then Mayor Anise Parker at the end of her final term. It really was at the end of the final term. The Alief community at large was not involved with the planning, design, or erection of the signs. Unlike the Chinese signs that are in District J, the Vietnamese signs are not a translation of the street name. Instead, these signs are the names of Vietnamese generals who committed suicide when Saigon fell to communist rule. Since they were literally put up in the middle of the night, the signs were a surprise to the community. Many people immediately began contacting the Alief Super Neighborhood Council about the signs with complaints that not only were the signs a traffic hazard, but also because they were very divisive. I, as the ASNC chair, wrote to both Richard Wynn and Hubert Bowe in 2016. The new District F council member, Steve Lee, was asked on several occasions to remove the signs, but he took no action. In fact, Steve Lee and his chief of staff, Daniel Albert, had a town hall at Alief Community Center where they proposed naming our area as Little Saigon. That suggestion created quite a stir, quite an uproar, and the suggestion was dead on arrival. Since the complaints continued, the Super Neighborhood Board met with Mayor Turner and requested the signs be removed. The Super Neighborhood has offered multiple options to the IMD board members other than putting up on the traffic light stanchions. The suggestions were all in line with other areas, like at Hillcroft's Indian area, where just south of West Park. It has been suggested that they use smaller signs like that are currently like the ones on Willcrest and Harwin from the old days when the Chinese signs were put there. Mayor Turner believed it should be a community decision and turned the resolution responsibility to the International District. In 2018, the International District had a meeting at Youngblood Intermediate School and asked people to vote for or against the signage. The vote in favor of the signs was lopsided, mostly because Vietnamese voted who did not live in the district or voted using District F addresses. The Super Neighborhood complained directly to the city as there were multiple issues with the votes cast. The signs were not taken down, and the complaints have continued for over 5 years. And one of the reasons why people come to the Super Neighborhood is because we're the only community organization that is recognized by the city. And some folks think that we have we can do things. The city will do things for us that they might not do for individuals. So that's the story of the Super Neighborhood's involvement. In 2019, Tiffany Thomas ran for the District F seat. As part of her platform, Ms. Thomas pledged to remove the signs in response to ongoing community-wide discontent. So that kind of brings you up to date on what's happening. So tonight we have invited David Hawes to come and speak with us, and David is the managing partner at Hawes Hill and Associates, and the work they do, his company provides administrative services and support to probably just about all of the management districts throughout Houston. And I want to remind everybody on the call that David is our guest. If you have any questions or comments, we'll put them in the chat and we'll read them afterwards so that David can continue uninterrupted. And with that, I'd like to welcome David Hawes.
Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate that introduction. A couple of things. I'm the general manager of the International Management District. I'm here in that capacity. I would like to make one small correction. There are over 30 management districts in the Houston region, and we manage 7. So I just want to be real clear about that, because there are people out there that think that I created all these districts and I manage all of them. I did all this, but I didn't. In fact, of the 7 management districts we manage, I was not involved in the creation of 5 of them. We responded to an RFQ to come in and help put them together and manage them. So I just want to keep the facts straight on that, because I get enough grief from people outside who assign you with some type of urban myth. Anyway, nonetheless, Barbara, I appreciate you inviting us out. I also want to point out that it was as much a surprise to the district as it was to everyone else on this call when those signs went up. We were not informed of it. We were actually, I think in some respects, one could say we were kind of victimized by it, because then the mayor said, well, a public entity has to maintain those signs. And so we were pretty much forced into the position of having to maintain the signs that we did not put up and had no involvement in putting up. So I just want to be clear about that. Particularly And I think it's fair to say for the last 4 years, I've been doing everything I can to find a way to get the signs off the mast arms and do away with the confusion of what those signs are. I will point out that I have been saying for a long, long time, and I've said this to Hubert, and I've said this to anybody who will, Hubert Bowe, and anybody who will listen, that the signs are without context and without meaning. Anyone who drives into the area sees the sign and they think they're seeing a street sign that is an interpretation, language interpretation of the street name itself, which it is not. One of the things that I have preached particularly very strongly for the last 2 years and coming up with a program to replace the signs, because we are an international management district and we will be honoring lots of parts of the world because that's what we are. We're an international district. So whether it's Mexico or whether it's the Caribbean or whether it's Africa or Europe or China or wherever, Central America, wherever. We have people from all nationalities within the confines of the business district, the international district. So this is, we've come up with a way that I'm going to share with you tonight. But in this particular case, we're building off something that had already been created, and that had to do with the generals. And that seems to be very near and dear to the Vietnamese community, and I understand that. I grew up in the Vietnam War. I grew up here in Mineral Wells, Texas, which had the world's largest primary helicopter base. And if you flew to Vietnam, flew helicopter in Vietnam, you came to Mineral Wells and you learned to fly helicopter. And this house that I'm sitting in, I was fortunate to purchase after being out of my family for 40 years, just right in here and over there. We had every Friday Vietnamese pilot students in this house as we were a host family. So my whole life growing up as a child until I was through high school was a host family for Vietnamese. Who were here training to be pilots during the Vietnam War. So I do have an understanding of the feelings that they have about these issues. And so I have been working hard for the last 2 years to find balance in this issue. And I want to say I appreciate Councilmember Thomas's efforts in this. I would like to say that I like to believe and say that we have been working together for quite some time for the both of us to work together with the community. I've been kind of the instrument dealing with the Vietnamese community to find a solution and a compromise to bringing the signs off the mast arms. So with that said, is my intent to, at the next board meeting, for the board to vote for a replacement program for the first ever of a complete international district international theme, which will start with Vietnamese, and this will be limited to a very small area. That's the list of the 10 generals, Saigon and Freedom, that will do. And I'm just sharing with you tonight how we're moving the signs off the mast arm. And there's 10 of these, so that's 5 intersections on Bel Air is what we're looking at. These sign toppers. I think some of you, like Doreen and Barbara, have seen this design before because we had recommended this kind of little design here to make it truly a memorial marker, not a street sign, and make it smaller. You see that's about 3 feet 6 inches across and maybe 4 feet as a marker. What we want to do is create a trail system down the sidewalk to give context to the names. There'll be more to this program, but it won't be on the street. It'll be between the sidewalks and the property owners' properties to give and be an economic development tool, a walking tour type approach to bring people, to get them out of their cars and walk up one side of Bel Air and down the other side. So I can't get into specifics about that because we're still working that through. But this is what, as of this morning, I have a written confirmation from Hubert Bowe, and I really appreciate Hubert taking a leadership role on finding a solution to this issue so that we can really give these, if we're going to do something like this, we give it context and give it understanding and meaning, not have a blade up on top of a mast arm that nobody knows what it means. So this is what we have. That dark blue, I think Barbara and Noreen, y'all have seen this before. We had it like this, or on the in the median, or this, but this is what we settled on. And I have written confirmation from the leadership of the Vietnamese community in Hubert that they will accept this compromise. So the signs will come off hopefully by the first quarter of next year. We have new street signs that will be going up at the same time for actual street signs with a new design where they'll be uniform, because the signs that are done today, they're up there, are fading and they're not uniform. So I'm trying to bring uniformity to all the street signs in the district. And then this will be the first of many different types of approaches to honoring all the international countries within zones of the district. So we will limit this to just one small area. It hasn't been decided exactly what street. There'll be basically 4 blocks with 5 intersections, and that's it. Any questions, any comments, any concerns?
4 blocks with 5 intersections. Is that what you said, David?
Well, that's what we're looking at. You know, you have one on each end and the blocks in between, but there'd be five, let me put it this way, 5 intersections in the blocks in between. So you would have 5 of the, and our walking tour would have 5 of the generals on the north side. You come down the south side of Bel Air and you have the 5 generals. And that way we would have a mechanism where people can stop and turn to the left or the right, depending which way they're walking, and see the person's name, a little history about them. It's an economic development walking tour. And so it really gives context and meaning. And that's the whole point, because what we have now, there's no context, there's no meaning, there's no understanding. It's confusing, it's dangerous, because people get confused about the signs. I've said this from the day they went up. I said, good grief, what have we done? Anyway, that's what we've come up with. Get them off the masthead.
David, this is Noreen.
Yes,
so you're
ma'am.
saying that this is going to be on Bel Air.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
we're going back to the standard signs. What will the standard signs look like for Bel Air, Beach Nut, Bissonnette?
They'll be standard signs, just like we have a design. You've seen those before, Noreen. I think y'all.
Yes,
Yeah, that's what we're going to put up. That's what we're going to put up.
I just want you to confirm that we're going, because we had come up with the design of like the blue background.
Yes, ma'am.
Because the white was supposed to be really visible at dark and in the night. Okay.
You got it. So that's the only signs that'll be up there. In fact, Noreen, I had a long talk with Michael Maurer this day saying, look, not all these mast arms are the same. You don't have the same space. And some of the signs are really huge. And some are like this. And he said, look, well, they're not like this, but you know what I mean? They're smaller. And I said, look, find on each mast arm what the maximum space is or the minimum space is to put a sign in, and all the signs will be uniform. We don't have these giant blades and these medium blades or in between. They'll all be uniform. And that's what we did with these memorial markers, was to make sure that we could put these in. You know, the lettering on these are going to be 4 inches, not 8 inches like they are now. So we cut everything in half and even made it smaller, taking it off the mast arm, limit where it's going to go in. And I think this is a proportional and reasonable compromise that everybody can live with. At least I'd like to think that. Because I'll tell you what, I like to end 2020 with December board meeting, having this put to rest, and we get off of this and get back to doing the business of the district and the community.
Will those 2-door signs be on Beach Nut? I assume all those will come down, period, right?
I'm sorry, Barbara, you're breaking up. I didn't catch that.
The signs on Beach Nut, the freedom signs, 2-door signs.
They'll all come down.
Okay, great.
They're all coming down. Everything that's up there right now will come down. In fact, I'm talking to the Vietnam Memorial Museum here in Mineral Wells. We have a huge we have a wall, the Vietnam Wall. I'm going to try and get them to create a thing where they can list the general, take those signs and use them.
Great idea.
Good idea.
Yeah, and they seem to be
Now-
receptive to it.
David, for the benefit of other people that aren't familiar with these street signs going up, we are going to be introducing a new logo, or a more modern logo for the management district. Is that not
Yeah,
correct?
everything we agreed to, we're going to do. Yes.
Okay.
It's going to be
Because
an updated logo. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be a much nicer design, a more modernistic, and in keeping with the times instead of what you see up there now. So everyone
Yes,
will
ma'am.
just be expecting a little change.
That was a whole. Yes, ma'am. We're updating. You've started to see the globes have been changed out.
Yeah.
I think those look much nicer and more diverse. I have really been preaching diversity diversity from an international perspective. If we're going to be an international district, we need to be an international district. I think the board's tired of hearing me saying that, but I'm going to keep saying it till it all happens. And again, I want to appreciate Councilmember Thomas. She has been a real godsend to this district. Thank God we have somebody that actually lives in the district now, representing us. I really mean that, council member. I was afraid where we were going, the way things were going. So, and I appreciate her comments. She and I had a view. There was a couple options. She and I had a view of a different option, but that we both liked. It was circular sign, and they didn't want that. They wanted the square one, and that's fine. They were both going to be the same size. It works out just fine. One person's taste is somebody else's whatever. So anyway.
David, I have a question from Doug Smith. He sent an email since he wasn't feeling very well, but he wanted to know.
I'm sorry. Hope he's okay.
Will you solicit community input for any future commemorative materials you plan to install?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How's that
Yeah.
going?
Well, I don't know how that'll work, but we'll have town hall meetings and all this. I think this is a unique situation where I think we've had plenty of dialogue and understanding about where everybody stood on this project. So I will tell you, I personally just took everything that everybody said, wanted, didn't want, and worked with that to negotiate this. I think this is a different situation, but going forward on the different international zones, we will work with everybody to get community input.
Will other future commemorative signs, is that going to be after well, what's the timing on that? I mean, will that be 10 years from now, or?
Oh, no. I would like to that's a very good question, Barbara. Thank you. We set aside money for the Hackberry to Art Story Park Trail that we're putting 400,000 in with the Parks Department. We've set that aside. So we are going to implement this. And I would think that every year to year and a half, we'll implement a new zone. And it'll be a continuous program.
David?
Yes, ma'am.
It's Noreen. I think that then one of the things we should focus on next is over on Beech Nut. We would really like to do a lot more with what we have in the community garden area.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of potential. And if we could create that into some sort of zone and put our own sort of, designation on it, that would be wonderful.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
We could call it the carrot zone or the zucchini zone. What about that?
Hey, I had zucchini boats right out of the garden tonight for dinner.
Hey, that's
I have an incredible winter garden. These freezes, I'm tired of covering the garden every other 3 days. I'm telling you, it's going to be 35 degrees. It's going to be 32 actually next Monday. So we just get one cold front down enough. They don't make it down to Houston.
No. And it was
Well, they
supposed
sure
to
make
rain
it.
today here, and I think it didn't even rain enough to get the ground wet.
Yeah, we're not getting any rain up here. But I just want to say that there is no one on this call who's more frustrated than me over the last 6 years. I just have done everything I can to try to find a way through this that will be will at least be a reasonable approach that everybody can accept.
And so, Dave, if I may
Yes,
add,
ma'am.
just for the benefit of all of us in the Zoom room, and once this happened, how will this be broadly communicated to the whole community? Because I think that's going to be important. My office
Yep.
has been, people have reached out because they're like, you know, there's multiple stories happening, and I think what will be important for all of us, where we navigate, if it's next door, our HOA, our civic club, is that we're all saying the same thing,
Yes,
and that
ma'am.
we're sharing the information,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
that we're all on the same page. And then to invite your neighbors to participate when the IMD rolls out the community engagement portion and the input. We want your participation. And so what's the plan around that in terms of rolling this out from a communications perspective?
Yes, ma'am. You know, I got the word Saturday morning that they had agreed to this, and then we had a little slight change up on colors, and we went from one color to the other color, to back to blue. The other color was a dark green, which I thought was really nice, but they thought about it, they went back. They wanted to go green. I said, well, I'm not sure about that. But anyway, we finally got that all settled this morning at 10 o'clock. Basically, I got the email. I said I would not do anything until I had emails in writing that said that they would accept this compromise. You're right, Councilman. There are people who from the community, from the Vietnamese community, who are not familiar with this, who are asking, well, how were the names chosen? Where are they from? As we talked about this afternoon, there are people who don't even know what the signs are about. So, Barbara, rest assured, I have Alan Bernstein, who is our firm's communication officer, director of communications. He used to be Mayor Turner's director of communications. He's been with us since March, and we're putting together a packet of a whole and Customer Thomas, a way to communicate through all different social media, Twitter, emails. And Barbara, I'm going to rely on you through this ailey Super Neighborhood to help us get this word out. And we'll have fact sheets that speak to the truth and not to hyperbole or to history, one's alternate facts or history or whatever. We're going to keep it straightforward. I really liked what you put together. That was very helpful. If you wouldn't mind sharing that with me so we're all speaking the same words, I would appreciate that, because you had some things that you said that I was not aware of, that I'd never heard before, actually never heard before. So I thought that was interesting. So we're not completely in the light sometimes. So on what happened in the early days, I think you knew more about than we did.
Well,
So
I mean, people mistakenly or not, they come to the super neighborhood because it's the only civic organization that's recognized by the city. So
right. Yep.
So that's why they come to us and think that we have some ability to do something with that, but not always. That doesn't always happen.
Well, what I'd like to do is, I think there's a lot of, I don't know if the people who need to learn the lessons learned because they're no longer around, but I think there were lessons, we have all learned lessons from allowing things like this to happen. This should have never happened. I mean, you mentioned Hillcroft. That happened the same way. They went directly to Mayor Parker, and unbeknownst to the Southwest Management District, we were saddled with those as well. And
Oh, wow.
oh yeah, oh no, this happened not just once, twice. And so that was handled all behind the scenes, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, Southwest District, you have to deal with this. Oh yeah, I'm getting tired of those things. So, but
Tiffany, this is
Yes,
Joe.
ma'am.
but anyway,
I
that's
have a
life.
question,
Things happen.
only because I had a problem.
Yes, ma'am.
When will the actual traffic signs be put up done? Not the stuff on the wall, because I was driving the other day and I was looking for a street and I couldn't see it because the sign was Vietnamese at the top, and the actual street name was way off to the side and it was
Right.
faded.
Right.
That to me is the most critical, is to get the actual street signs for just safety reasons.
I absolutely agree with you, and I guess I wasn't clear about that. Everything will be done. Our goal is to have everything done. The street signs are paramount. I want to have everything done before the end of the first quarter. Now, remember, we're a political subdivision of the state of Texas. We're a state agency. Quite frankly, the board are public officials that take the same oath of office that Councilmember Thomas took to serve as a public official. We are subject to bidding laws. So my goal is at the December board meeting which is on the 17th, I believe. Annie, I think it's on the 17th, is to get authorization for, I've already got Michael Maurer working on it, but authorization to bid. I've asked him to go ahead and start putting the bid package together for the street signs, for everything, so that we can be ready to accept bids and in January at the January board meeting and let a contract to start. And it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to manufacture the signs, and then takes little or no time to put them up. So long story is that I would expect short story is expect by the end of the first quarter.
And the signs that go up will be realigned, so you won't have any competing. You won't have to look. Everything will be realigned. They'll be updated. They'll be clear, and you'll be able to see them clearly at night.
Yeah, Miss Joe, I will tell you that my biggest frustration was exactly what you're talking about. The sign company that they hired to come up and put those Vietnamese signs just decided they were all these big signs, they were all uniform big signs. And he just came out there and moved the street signs out of the way to put those signs up. And I said, what the heck do you think you're doing? That's not how this works. So my only frustration is taking this long to get there, but we're here. We're here today. So I feel good about it. So it's a happy Thanksgiving.
Right, and the end of first quarter is at the lease, right? That's the lease. They're working towards tracking to make sure that they meet certain milestones. And so we anticipate those updates and that public information will be shared, so everyone's included ongoing. And so I think this is one of many opportunities that Dave and his team will share any information around the signage program.
Good. Any other questions for David?
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate y'all inviting me. When I moved to Houston in 1989, I lived over in Huntington Village, and my kids graduated from ELSIC, and I love the community and love working in the community in these later years. That was back when I was young. And back when y'all were kids. So anyway, I appreciate y'all's patience. I, for one, am sorry for all of us that's taking this long and all this imagination we had to go through to get here, but we're here. I do want to thank Councilmember Thomas. She provided a tremendous leadership on this, and she was very helpful to me. The mayor was very patient working through this. And I want to say, in the end, Hubert Bowe provided leadership when it was needed on the Vietnamese side. So I thank him for that as well.
Good. Thank you, David.
All right. Thank y'all. Y'all take care. Happy Thanksgiving. And
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
be safe.
Thank you. Okay, Tiffany,
Good night.
Oh, I'm up.
you're up.
Okay, so that was a lot. It's good to see your faces and names. We had a newsletter that went out, so I'm going to try to recap that briefly. There's no council meeting this week, so we're quiet, and I told the staff if they leave me alone this week, I'll leave them alone. So we're trying to, that's the deal. So we're trying to wrap up last minute site visits and administrative things before we kind of go dark. We're really working to make sure that we limit our public facing, limit our obligation to that, because there have been some COVID exposures when we have large gatherings. So we're really trying to minimize that. Things that are coming up in our newsletter, we've initiated infrastructure project off of Kirkwood and Meadow Glen. If you ever go to that HEB and you drive behind the HEB and you try to get out and you can't, it's because of that curb. Well, they've already started construction on that yesterday. I drove past. So that started, we expect for that to be completed second week of December. We've also issued and initiated through our CDSF funds sidewalk repair on Yukon Ridge and I want to say it's on Yukon Ridge, so by Chancellor Elementary. So we're repairing those sidewalks, and we'll be releasing a couple of more projects, particularly in Alief. We'll be announcing those once we get the notice to proceed from Public Works. So I'm trying to think if there's something off the top. I wasn't necessarily prepared to speak, but our COVID testing is extended. It's still available at no cost to you through December. So I know all of us are being responsible and social distancing during this holidays. If you are choosing spending time with your family, I'm finally going to my dad's house on Thursday. I have not been in his home since March. So I'm excited about that. So I got tested on Monday and I'll get tested afterwards. So just encourage your family and friends to get tested as many times as possible. If you've been exposed, if you've been in small groups. We've approved a series of funding. Officer Whitaker mentioned the $4 million. Midwest and West Side was a recipient of that. So those funds are ongoing and for overtime. Our staff through December 31 will continue to be deployed. Those dates when our staff were on a skeleton shift are in our newsletter. So if there's a delay around response, just know we have our out of office on and we completely communicate that. But sometimes people have an expectation that we can always respond the day of, and sometimes we can't. And a part of the deployment was to save money off of our budget. So every employee in the city of Houston is spending time taking temperatures at every public building throughout the city. So they're scheduled throughout that time. And so we should be wrapping that up probably early December, but those dates when we are on skeleton are within our newsletter. We still have rent relief, and that information is still available with Baker Ripley. And I think that's pretty much it. Sherelle, what am I missing? Oh, save the date. We're having our annual meeting, our first District F annual meeting, December 3rd. We will present to you our recap of our first year together in office during a global pandemic. It will be on Microsoft Teams Live. We will highlight to you our 311 calls, projects initiated, funding priorities, initiatives, and present to you some of the initiatives we would like to focus on in 2021. Just a spoiler alert for that. We are in the process of identifying every bus stop, bus shelter, drainage, and area within the district where we need more street lighting. It's one of the things. So we're looking at, so you know, in my real life, I'm a faculty member at Prairie View. So I have my class, my graduate class focusing on District F. So they're looking at, the architecture students are looking at every drain in District F that needs to be dredged. So in case we have a strong wind, a storm, a rain occurrence, that we'll be prepared for that. Secondly, areas within the district that need additional lighting. And then thirdly, replacing some of those old bus stations and those bus shelters throughout the district so we can focus on some revitalization. So stay tuned for that. That's December 3rd. It'll be great. We have a lot of information prepared for you all, and I think you all will be very pleased and impressed with the work that we are doing on behalf of you at City Hall. If within our newsletter, and you can find our newsletter on our district council page, you can sign up for, if you notice a homeless encampment, Solid Waste is still cleaning those areas. And so they've already done this work underneath Beltway 8 and Bel Air and other areas. We've received a few comments via email, but if you can just send that over, Solid Waste is moving quickly to make sure that those areas are clean to prevent the spread of COVID. So please help us out and share that information. And I think that's it, unless there's any questions.
Tiffany, this is Joe. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I got tested at Crump Stadium, which is where I go. Has there been a delay? Because I got tested on a Monday morning and I didn't get the results till like 6:30 p.m. on Thursday.
Really?
Yeah, and it hasn't ever been like that. So I just was curious if
Well, no,
maybe
actually,
they had changed people.
no, the times are actually quicker. My brother, who works at Alief, was tested. He was exposed to a colleague who was positive and had to quarantine. So they sent him to Crump, and he received it in 48 hours. He received his, and that was last week. So I don't know if that was just a hiccup.
Could have been just a hiccup.
Yeah, and because when COVID first hit, it was taking forever. The first time I got tested, I was like, Lord have mercy, I don't know what's going on. And so it took, I think, 7 to 10 days the first time I got tested. So we're seeing 72-hour results return back for individuals, and we are in partnership with Alief ISD. They are providing testing for faculty and staff at that same location. They're in process of securing that. So our teachers and our admin faculty will be able to go to that location as well. So hopefully that was just a hiccup.
I have another question.
Sure.
You know me, I'm always full of questions.
All good, that's what we're here.
You were talking about the homeless encampments. Today I was driving down Bissonnet and Derry Ashford, and there are panhandlers out there who are leaving trash and all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
Is that something we report? Is that just we have to live with it?
They're not living there though. They're just littering, right?
Well, yeah, no, you're right. They're not, but they have like folding chairs, bicycles, trash all over the esplanade.
Yeah. So, we do have a hot team, our hotspot team, and they've been responding to some of our problem areas and then by 311 calls. So I think that's probably more of a DRT response to those individuals. And I mean, when I drive out on Bel Air and make a left on, Derry Ashford, I mean, they're on Derry Ashford, they're on Willcrest, we are just, it's just interesting time. And the city has, quiet as it's kept, invested over $30 million in coordinated effort around homelessness and those experiencing homelessness, prevention of homelessness, getting people in shelter. It's not getting the airplay. No one's talking about it. But we have expanded our homeless social service network. A part of the challenge, Joe, and you know this, most of y'all aware, we don't have the nonprofit social service network out here as in the downtown of the city, right? We don't have that. We don't have the Star of Hope per se. We don't have those agencies that have resources. And I know DRT, Westside, has worked to get those individuals some resources, but sometimes those nonprofits are resistant to even coming out here, right? Because some people don't even believe this is the city of Houston. So that's a whole nother thing. They're like, Alief, what is that the city? So what, working with the city and the Coalition for the Homeless, we're investing a lot of dollars with agencies to get those individuals placed. But I will tell you that some of them are just resistant because they don't want to go to a shelter because of the spread of COVID and their own fears around that. So, we're trying to do everything we can to get those individuals stabilized, right? With very limited space and then in a global pandemic. And so I think in terms of your specific question that might be more DRT related, the illegal dumping that you see in the area. I noticed an encampment when I was at the park the other day and then I was coming from the doctors at West Houston by the bayou underneath the trees. It's like a whole apartment complex of people with their tents. And I didn't know that. I was like, what is this? And so, it pop up. I'm sure they're not bothering anyone, but they're behind someone's home, right? So right now with the CARES Act funds that we have, we want to make sure that we clean those areas to prevent the spread. Many people are going back to work. They're catching the bus. They're walking their kids to school. COVID's in the air. We want to do all that we can. So if there's anything that you see, you can email our office. You can call 311. You can use the jot form on the newsletter, and we'll get that information to.
Thank you.
solid waste. There's an updated solid waste schedule for trash.
Got that.
So I know,
Got that.
listen, my inbox is hot like fire when the trash man does not pick up y'all's trash. So and my daddy included, okay? He calls and talks about that trash too. So I know it was posted in Nextdoor. I sent it to Alief Life. If you don't have that updated schedule, we can go ahead and add that so you and your neighbors can be prepared of when to send that out. We passed 2 weeks ago some additional funds from CARES Act because we do have younger employees with solid waste for more training. Some of the trash bins in terms of the service, the trash bins are damaged. They're not returning back to you as they were. And so we authorized funding for them to replace those bins. So some of you have, those trash cans have just been tossed on that sidewalk and they've driven off and they've gone off. So the city is actively working through that to respond to that for better training and more supply of trash bins for those that have had damaged ones. Any other questions?
Anybody else? Hey, we're
I mean, there's a lot happening. I'll probably forget. I mean, there's a lot happening at the city, so I'll probably forget.
That's why we have emails and newsletters.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we can always follow up. So if there's any particular information that you would like, you can always, and we try to put the meaningful items in our newsletter that directly impact our district. But just a congratulatory note, 2 weeks ago, we celebrated the groundbreaking of the new and improved Alief Community Center. So kudos to all of you. Hey, oh, yay. And so we are tracking, we're on schedule. This is a $55 million investment. Good times to be had by all. We will have an updated library with new technology, walking trail, garden, gym, swimming pool, all of that. Lots of focus around senior activities, classrooms. So when we can get together, we can actually meet in the new facility with technology. So, definitely keep your eyes open for that. Mayor Turner is committed to opening those doors before his term ends. So I expect to see all of us there and our good go to meeting, Sunday clothes, Sunday wearing, and for our ribbon cutting. And I think this is going to be a gem of the city. So just really excited and grateful for all of you that have advocated for this so long. It's really going to be a beacon in the city because this is the first time that they're developing a building like this with this type of investment. So thank you for y'all's commitment on that.
Thanks, Tiffany. I'm looking at the notes here. Somebody asked about, Vanessa, will nonprofits and groups within the Alief community be able to speak on initiatives and events that are wanting to put forth at the meeting on December 3rd?
Sure. So the annual meeting is more of a report out of the district office to the community. We welcome having that conversation and the Q&A during that time. If you're willing to talk about initiatives, that's great. And so Vanessa, for those of you who don't know, in the newsletter, she's doing the Alief food fridges where they're for the community, and they have partnered with businesses throughout the community. For those who are food insecure, you can go to the fridge, get up some, snacks, whatever food that you need. And she went to Alief Taylor, so she's Alief proud. And so they are working on expanding that initiative. And so I had a conversation with one of our other nonprofit partners today, is that we really need to become organized so we don't split our resources. We're very limited at times in the district office to support nonprofits, especially when our work is splintered. So we have tried this year to organize, to get a sense of all of the churches that are offering food bank, food locations, so we can put that information out. All of the agencies in the area that's serving around utilities, assistance and support, so we can communicate consistently, since we don't necessarily have that footprint, but specifically to Vanessa's question, you're more than welcome to share that information during Q&A, but this is really my time for report card. This is when I'm giving the people my final exam, that this is the work that I've done.
And you've done an excellent job.
I appreciate that. The team, we're the dream team. So District F is for forward.
Good, instead of forgotten.
Instead of forgotten, we're
Yeah.
moving forward. And so I think tonight with Dave sharing is the first step of us pulling, you know, kind of all these players together and leveraging our office to make sure that we can respond to some direct things that the community has been asking for. And I think what's important for me is that we all walk away communicating the same thing and we all have the same expectation. Because there's just so many stories and I'm not interested in chasing them, but I think, you know, with this group here, we have a responsibility to communicate to the community that we can celebrate diversity in a meaningful way and that everyone wants to be included and to give people that opportunity to participate in their community. So thank you for your work on that.
Good. Anybody have any comments they want to end the meeting with? We normally don't have a meeting in December, and I think that would be a lovely tradition to carry on. So we'll meet again in January. And Tiffany, my puppies are in.
Oh, they made it.
They made it. Okay, so happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas, or Happy Holidays, whatever is socially correct nowadays, and watch Alief Life, and we'll try to tell you any news that we can find. Thank you all so much for coming, and
Thanks, Barbara.
see you
Happy
in January.
Thanksgiving to all of y'all. Be safe. See you in the next year.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Great meeting.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a good year.